Where do your children go to school?
Where is your residence?
Where do you stay? We were both born and raised in Uganda, and growing up, these are some of the questions we've heard frequently being asked in conversations between our parents and their friends and just the adults that surround us.
The average Ugandan has their social class identity summed up by their residence, their children's education, and their place of work. This is what it means to have made it. My name is Benita Basemera.
My name is Katamba.
And we would like to shed light on what it really means to reorient our social class identity.
Now, after looking at the websites, I came to find that the elitists of the elite international schools back home have fee structures that boast upwards of $10,000 a year. And I was looking at grades 4 to 8. A lady on the admissions team at one of these international schools told us that many of the parents that send their children there have school fees deficits. Now, the people that can, or claim that they can, drive the latest Toyota Land Cruisers to go have tea with their friends. Now, after hearing me say this, maybe you wouldn't think much of it, but according to Toyota Uganda, it costs up to $200,000 to get the latest model of the Land Cruiser 300 series on the road in UG, when we include tax and everything. That's an equivalent of about 750 million Uganda shillings. This would be the point where my dad would say, "Mother, do you know how many bags of cement I could buy with that money?" Because you know how African fathers are about construction and preparing for the future by building apartments and houses. But all this to say, by all means, do strive to be in a better position than you are right now. Please do. In fact, I implore you to do so. But do not let that make you a participant of the not-so-silent competition of who has more. That is where the problem lies. Because then you're just trying to prove something to people who don't really care.
At the heart of Kampala, the avenues of Prince Charles Drive and Upper Kololo are linked with lavish bungalows, mansionites of former ministers, city tycoons, business moguls, and even principal lawyers. Notoriously, to the average passerby, the uniform gates of black and blue are only a derogation of reality. We all have a Prince Charles Drive, don't we? An area in our lives we've worked so hard to maintain. A person or a group of people we've put in so much effort to associate with. An asset of high maintenance. Well, along the course of this talk, we invite you to reflect on your own Prince Charles Drive and the gates of uniformity that have led us as individuals to a temporarily valued social class identity.
Now, how can we strip off the baggage of our social class identities? We must go back to the point of what it actually means to make it. What can actually be considered a success, and when does a person gain the right to call themselves successful? So although you've probably heard this a number of times in your life up until this point, I'll say it again because we tend to forget. Success is not the number of zeros on that paycheck.
Nor how many square feet your house is on.
It is not the amount of cars parked in the garage.
Not how many followers you have on your Instagram account.
But simply put, it's fulfillment. Too many times we associate monetary value and popularity to the meaning of this word. And yet the Oxford Dictionary defines success as the achievement of an aim or purpose. We all think we want to be millionaires, but what we actually want is the happiness and fulfillment that comes with wealth.
Yes, and to supplement this, Carl Rogers, an American psychologist in humanistic approach, assessed that there are 3 attributes to self-concept, namely self-view, which is the image that we have of ourselves as individuals in society. Secondly, we have self-esteem, which is the value that we impute onto ourselves as members of society and in our various friend groups. And last but not least, we have ideal self, which refers to the person that we aim to be, the person we aspire to be, the person that we can be. You see, we as human beings are very conscious of our categorical self. The fact that we all subconsciously classify and categorize ourselves to different label groups in our society. Well, as a result of this, we find ourselves compromising ourselves and conforming to seemingly lucrative behaviors and admirable character traits. We compare ourselves to other groups and compare other groups to other groups as a way to heighten ourselves and conserve our self-esteem.
Too often the case is that our feeling of success is heavily reliant on people's perception of us and not our perceptions of ourselves. True success is simply fulfillment.
Yes, and to supplement what Martha has just said, we have to look back to where this fulfillment roots from. We as human beings are conscious of our existential self, that we as individuals separate and exist as distinct entities from each other. To supplement this, we find ourselves consistently having ourselves looking for highlights to unique possessions, abilities, behaviors that heighten us and put us in hierarchies in our various social groups. As a result of this, we end up conforming to societal norms that are against our values and morals as individuals.
So we need to think about synthetic indicators of social wealth. You know, when you're looking at the content I'm posting on my Snapchat and Instagram stories, you're essentially only seeing a window into my life. This is not what I do on a daily basis. You are seeing what I want you to see. After talking about this with my siblings, my younger brother, I came to find that he feels the need to constantly observe those who have and those who don't have. But that's because he's grown up in a setting where it seems to matter so much. These days, when we go on holiday, it feels like a competition that you didn't necessarily sign up for. We care too much about things like who went to the most interesting place,
Who met the most famous person,
who had the most fun. Not to say that these things did not exist in previous generations, but the problem now is that because of the ease of connectivity we have through our screens, it's in your face, it's overwhelming, and in places like Uganda, it has caused us to put unnecessary focus on social class, the monetary aspect that is.
Now that we're aware of all this knowledge, the question that's subtly burning at the back of our minds is, how can we cease to be these vapid and average individuals in society? How can we increase our influential wealth? Well, unlike in all other aspects of wealth, like monetary wealth, where we aim to be rulers, dominators, overlords, in influential wealth, we look at being a ruler in similarity to its actual meaning. A ruler is a measure, a standard by which all things are calibrated by. The life of an influencer is much like a ruler, setting the standard for all valuables, possessions, accomplishments, and actions done by an individual in life to be appraised by. The life of an influencer is so exemplified that it is used to raise the standard of any other life.
And we've been made to think that influencer is a social media persona, but really an influencer in your life is someone that you can be inspired by and look up to, and just really look at their actions, look at their mannerisms, look at the words that they say, and be moved to conformity. An influence in your life, it could be your parents, it could be your siblings, it could be your best friend, really, anyone that inspires you.
And just as Martha has said, it's time to question ourselves. It's time to assert our cognitive. How can we be sure that we're looking to the right influencer? How can we be affirmative that we're using the right standard to measure our lives by? Well, let's look back at the qualities of a good ruler. A good ruler is known to have consistent markings. Now let's cross-reference. I challenge everyone in this room to think of their influencer in the next 5 seconds. Now, evaluate. When you look at the attributed behaviorisms, coped valuables, possessions, and ethics that you have adopted by listening and, acquainting yourself to this influencer, and you apply it to your everyday situation, has it been helpful to you? Has it been profitable? Quite often we find ourselves being subject to fluctuating traits and trends that are only minimally profitable to us in our everyday situation.
Another quality to look at is validity. Another characteristic of a good measuring ruler is validity. That is to say, what it claims to say is sound and true. So when you look at the people in your life that you say influence you, the people that you look up to, do they have these characteristics, these qualities? And can you apply these qualities to yourself as well to try and be that influence in someone else's life? And I know some of you might be thinking, okay, but what's the point? My circle is very small. Who am I going to influence? Who would be inspired by me? But you only really need to affect one person, and then hopefully that one person will affect the next.
Yes. And as Martha said, it's now time to evaluate the cons of this particular perspective. Usually in our various social groups, in the various trends that we ascribe ourselves to, we find ourselves increasing in the rate of conformity to corruptible trends. And as we continue in this pattern, subtly and implicitly, we find ourselves becoming insensitive to our moral nature, the very source of our influential wealth. You see, unlike monetary wealth where this is negligible, influential wealth is not bared to the endless following that you have from your friends, family, or your Instagram audience. Influential wealth is not bared to the social capital in its maximities. You see, social capital can start with your small friend groups, your small community, and your family.
Sitting here in this room, we network, we bond, we can say that we own our sense of belonging to our various social groups, the 2 or 3 people that you may go to the cafeteria with, the people you may sit with in class, your classmates, workmates, people that you may play football with on the pitch, people you may play basketball with on the basketball court. Evidence of our influential wealth is receipted through the people that we hold ourselves accountable to, through the people that look up to us, even though we're not consciously recognizant of that.
Yes. So the time is now for us to take accountability for our influence. Our logical, emotional, and cooperative appeal unto those that look unto us. And as Martha said, even without a conscious recognition. The time is now for us to redefine and restate the terms and conditions of our social contract. The values that we have embedded in evaluating and choosing individuals to join our various social groups.
We set the standard for who we allow to appraise our actions, to measure them. Through the irrefutable value of influential wealth, we can reorient our social class identities.